Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the book Refuge, and yeah, welcome to this week's reading wrap up, guys. Tilt that down a little bit. I am very excited. We are back on track. I read 18 books this week and I'm so happy about it. So many good books were read. One of the things, well, a couple things I want to address. First, this is a cold sore. I get those sometimes. I usually get them like once a year. I'm treating it. It's fine. It's already almost like going away, but it always looks worse on like the last day that it's there because it's like nasty. But anyway, that's the elephant in the room, what's on my face, and it's fine. It's proof that I love you guys, that I'm still filming today, because honestly, I just want to hide in my bedroom, but it's fine. It's cool. It's great. Second thing, a lot of you already have been addressing how much I read, which is funny because it's like, hi, hello, this is the book Refuge. I averaged 50 to 60 books last year. This is how it goes. Because I've started, and the reason I think that people are noticing is because on Instagram, go follow me over there. I'm Jen Marsh 18, or the book Refuge, we'll have it come up. I'm using one of those monthly trackers that, like, it's done by Literary Goblin. So it's a template that you can fill it in with the books that you're reading. And it's funny because I'm putting the updates in there so people can see where I'm at, because I realize I have some people who only follow me on Instagram. And people are just like constantly like, oh my God, have you read this much? Well, two things. Number one, for last week, I did start the year early, right? Because I wrapped up 2020 so that I could do end of year stats and stuff. And so I started the books a couple days early for January, which is totally fine. I mean, we can make whatever decisions we want as creators. But still, there was only a few books from those days because I was taking it easy at the end of the year. But something that I do every year is once the new year starts, I kick it into high year and I read as much as I can in the first couple days just to set my mindset off right. So that's something that you're seeing, is that I did basically like a 48-hour readathon, and I actually have a vlog coming out about the books I was reading over New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and therefore a special vlog that should be up. I'm going to put it up this week, so not sure what day. So that is, you'll get to see what I was reading. That really pumped it up. So let's go ahead and dive in. We have 18 books to talk about. Some of them I have more to say than others, but I'm very excited. Also, though, first, I do want to welcome a new channel member, Brandy Schmidt, joined at the Faded Friend level. Brandy, thank you so much for being a support. Brandy, one thing I will say, make sure you contact me about your extra benefits. I was having trouble finding if you had any like socials or anything, but one thing, whenever anyone becomes a channel member, please make sure you reach out to me, because I have extra benefits that I want to give to you, and I can't do it if I can't find you, and I don't get like an alert about people or anything. It's a whole thing being a creator. I just want to give you things. I just want to give you things if you support me. But thank you so much, Brandy, for joining. I'm very excited. We have our January Faded Friend chat later today, and it's probably my favorite thing I do all month, is talking with you guys. It's gonna be great. So enough of that, because we got a lot of books to talk about, so let's dive in. So the first book that I finished was The Angel and the Highlander. You're gonna see a lot of Scottish romances on here because I put out a video last week and I was finishing up some Scottish books so that I could put them on there. This is book 3 in the Sinclair Brothers series. There's not too much I can say about this because, as I say in that video, you do kind of need to read this series in order if you want the bigger picture, because there definitely is a bigger picture. But this one is really fun. This is about Alice Bannock, who stole the identity. Well, she didn't steal it because she made up her own, but she has a fake identity as Sister Therese because she was going to stay at a convent, and when she got there was a sickness that went through and all of the nuns died. And so this group of young ladies who was sent to stay there, they pretended to be nuns so that they would have the protection of the church. And then we have Lachlan, who is one of the Sinclair brothers, and he is sent to retrieve Alice Bannock. And when he gets there and hears that she's dead, he also notices that there's all these nuns who've just had this tragedy happen where all these people died. And so they decide to stay there and be protection until the church sends protection for them. And Sister Charis just really doesn't want Lachlan to stick around too long because he's probably going to figure out what's happening. And Lachlan starts to feel real guilty that he's having some feelings for a nun. And it's kind of adorable. It's kind of adorable. So I gave this one a, what did I give? I gave this one a 5-star. I thought I did, but it was just so great. I love Donna Fletcher's books. This one's so pretty because it has like the moon on it instead, and it's just so sweet. Donna Fletcher's books, you're going to hear me say this over and over again. I give most of hers 5 stars. They're not trying to do the heavy lifting that some romances are trying to do, but they have just been such a source of comfort for me in the last couple weeks, and I'm so glad that I bought her books because of how pretty they are, because they have been worth the time to me. I've been listening to most of these on audio. They have a narrator his name is Anthony Ferguson, and he does the Scottish stuff real good. He also is the narrator for Mary Wine, who has other Scottish books. And the next book that I read was The Madness of Miss Grey. This is by Julia Bennet. I gave this book 3 stars. So another thing that I'm trying to do is to discover some indie published historical romance authors, because they generally have some things that I like in them. They have, you know, all the Regency or Victorian era historical stuff I love, but they usually have a little more sexy time in them as well. And, you know, Jen likes that. This book had a great setup, and I'll be honest that I was a little impatient with it. So this one is about a woman who has been sent to a mental asylum because she won't do what her family wants her to. And I've actually read a couple books like this at this point, because that was something that the patriarchy could do, is consider you mad if you didn't do what they wanted. There's also a book by Kerrigan Byrne that does something like this. And she is known, though, for her being promiscuous and being too sexual. And there's this guy who is a widow, and he's a doctor there. This is also an age gap, because I think she's about 25 and he's in his late 30s, early 40s. And she goes about trying to seduce him and get him to help her. So that is the setup. And he's a new doctor there, and he really, really wants to help her, but he doesn't want to cross over the line and, you know, take advantage of her. I really love that. Like, he's cognizant of the power he has, and he's seen other doctors misuse that power before because of the time period we're in. I mean, it's always a misuse of power, but, you know, I love weird, fucked up sexual dynamics, so there's that. But she is trying to use her wiles. So it's a great setup. It was just taking too long for me, which that's why I gave this a 3-star, but I'm still going to recommend it, you know, based on my new rating scale that I have. It was fun while I was reading it. I could see how this would be a hit for some other people. I am going to recommend this author when I recommend indie published historicals, but it just wasn't my cup of tea, okay? But it was good. Enough. Then I read Melt for You by JT Geissinger. And now this book is a 3-star, but I don't really recommend it because, holy crap, I forgot that this was the Slow Burn series, okay? I didn't know that this was a series until I was looking up a book which I'd read last year, which was called Burn for You, which was about a chef and a whiskey maker, and like, it was a slow burn arranged marriage or whatever. This one is about this woman, because yes, she was in her 30s and she's plus size. So I was pretty excited. Again, cover doesn't show that she would be plus size. And she has this Scottish football player living across the hall from her because he is like taking a season for a new team and he's staying in this apartment. And he's a playboy, and they end up, it's stuff that's supposed to be funny, and he ends up, like, she hears him having sex a couple times and gets really annoyed, and she has this boss at work that she's really trying to entice him. Well, not trying to entice him, she's had a crush on him for a really long time, and anyway, they end up talking, and he decides to, like, help her get this guy in exchange for she will cook for him, which again, this is a cute setup. It sounds great. Big problems. If you have issues with your weight or hearing disparaging comments about it, this woman will drive you crazy. It doesn't make me sensitive because I understand body issues. Obviously, I have had them, and it's not something that will send me into a dark place if I read them, because I'm one of the people where, like, I understand the body issues and they are something you think about, but it's not something I think about all the time. So when I read a book, what I'm looking for in a plus size character, it's okay that they be aware of their size. It's okay if they be proud of their size and say fuck everything. And it's also okay if they do want to change it, because I have, like, went through that where I wanted to change it, and I made those steps to do it. Still something I'm working on. So I can pretty much read any kind of situation. What I can't read is when you consistently hate on yourself and you think the only reason you're alone is because you're overweight and that you want to change it, and that, you know, I can't handle it. And then even though the hero is consistently telling her, like, please stop, like, the hero, and they make it a cute thing where he's like, please stop making disparaging comments about yourself, and he will get, like, angry with her. And I was like, that's supposed to be a cute thing. But I was with him because I was like, woman, just, you need therapy for this. Like, you need therapy for this, for how much you say it. And then it was a slow burn, as we said. And then it turns out that this boss person is actually a slimy bastard, but those signs don't even come out until like 80% into the book. And so she's still trying to win this guy for a huge portion of the book. And I was just like, I'm here for a romance, not to watch. Like, it was like, is this supposed to be a love triangle? Because it was clear it wasn't supposed to be a love triangle. But she's still determined to go after this boss character until 80% of the book. And only because he then turns out to be an asshole. And then she's like, you know, I have been having feelings for this hot football player this whole time. And I'm like, were you though? Because you were still going after this other guy for a really long time. So, I mean, it's probably less than a 3-star how I just explained it, because I wouldn't recommend it. But I listened to it on audio and it didn't take me very long. So, but I definitely wouldn't rate it the same as I would have rated I don't know. Ratings are hard. Then I read Ever After Always. I had an e-arc of this book. This book comes out January 26th, something. I'll put the time up with it. And I got an e-arc from NetGalley for this. I actually had not read the other books in the Bergman Brothers series. I actually wasn't too interested in those ones. I know. A couple of my friends absolutely adore them. I wasn't super interested in the premise of both of those. And I had listened to a couple podcasts specifically about the first book. And I don't know, but I was really interested in the premise for this book, specifically for its own self. So after having read this, and you do get to see the other characters, I am more interested now. So I hope to correct my ways in 2021 and read the other two, because I know specifically my friend Brie absolutely loves them. And so I will give them a try. But this one is A Marriage in Trouble. This is actually about a Bergman sister, Freya, and her husband. They've been together for a while, and they're having some marital issues. They are having a lack of intimacy, and there's so many beautiful things about this book. I mean, because it isn't out yet, I can't really say more than like other people are saying about it. So you've probably heard the synopsis so many times, but they are at a snapping point, and I just love the issues that are tackled in this. There is, you know, the hero, he has anxiety, and it's leading to issues in their marriage. His fear of not being a good protector, his fear of letting her down. He's from a very poor background, and he married into a pretty wealthy family, and so he always feels inadequate, even though they don't make him feel inadequate. He himself takes on that inadequacy and a fear that if they are to have children together, that he would not be able to provide, even though his wife has a great job, and he doesn't begrudge her great job. Like, it's not like he thinks she's inefficient in what she does. He just wants to know that he is enough to provide for them. And Aiden just had my heart, and so did Freya. I loved her, and I understood her frustration, because she's like, where's this sexy, powerful, sweet man I married, who I've been with all this time, and now he's replaced by this guy who won't touch me, who won't give me the affection that I need, who won't talk to me about it. He's just abandoned me, even though he's still there. And I love marriage in trouble stories, especially when you can see their great love. I love marriage in trouble when they like didn't really have anything between them and all of a sudden they're like, are we going to make this work or are we going to give up? Which is usually a historical setting. And I also love when it's, we had a great love and what could come between us. You know, they're that couple that if we had read their book, we would have thought they had a happily ever after. And I love that this one was like, there are other things that can get in the way. You can get in your own way more than outside forces ever will. And that you don't have to just give up. You can still make it happen. And I love that so much. It was so sweet. So I definitely gave this 5 stars and I want to try more. So I will probably read the other books. But I am glad I started with this one because I wasn't as interested by the other premises. But after having read this one and met those other characters, because you get to see the Bergman brothers and their spouses, like it made me excited to read those. So there's that. Then I read The Queen's Line by Kathryn Moon. This was a recommendation from Heather at Hia Booktubes. I watched her favorite books of the year, and I actually picked up a couple books from her. You'll see another one coming up soon, and they were both highly, highly enjoyable books. This one is a reverse harem, which I don't read many of those, but I've been proven wrong before. I do have a couple that I love. And the way that she talked about this one made me really excited. This world is hard to explain, but basically there is these females of the line that they have this sexual hunger. And so they have a harem of men who satisfy their hunger, and the sexual pleasure that this female is brought to will like feed the land's magic or like keep the world revitalized basically. And so then we have our newest princess who's supposed to, you know, have her ceremony and start taking a harem, and she doesn't feel desire. She doesn't feel the hunger yet. And so to kind of hide that from everyone, she takes some of her new harem and like goes to a corner of the kingdom to try to awaken it. So I've only read the first one in the trilogy so far, and it was really good. It is a lot of sex. That's something, and I know this is coming from Jen. But something that happens with one of the reasons why I don't read a ton of reverse harem is that when there's so many relationships, and when an author is doing a good job with a reverse harem, they are working on building all of those relationships. They're not just having people be random fuckboys in the story. Sometimes they do that. But it means that it is exhausting to read when there's so many characters who are all important. So I definitely want to continue. I've got the second one on my Kindle. And I ended up giving this 4 stars, part of that being there was some, like, the extra plots going on. I just felt like the book couldn't support it because, again, we're working on all these relationships with her harem, and then I didn't have room for the more of the plot. So hopefully that will change, like, as I add more books to it and, like, there's been more things. But in this one, it was just, like, a lot to support. But I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad to find another reverse harem to try because I know a lot of you, well, not a lot of you, the specific people who really like reverse harem, you're always pushing me to read them. And I'm like, guys, it's not my trope. I'm sorry. There's just some tropes that I won't be able to recommend. Like, when people ask for my trope recommendation videos, I always preface that, like, there are some that I don't like. And so if I were to do a recommendation, it wouldn't be books that I'm excited about. I would just be repeating what other people have said. So I'm happy that I'm liking this one, and it feels good to find one that works because I fully believe that context is important and any situation can make it work for you, right? Then I read The Imperfections by Sam Mariano. This is one of just a few Sam Marianos I haven't read yet. Sam Mariano, in case you didn't know, wrote one of my favorite books from 2020, which was called Untouchable. She also wrote a Mafia series that I absolutely adore. And this was one of the few I hadn't read. This is like a hitman story. And I listened to it on audio. And this is rough, but it's Sam Mariano, so you're in for a penny and for a pound. So this book actually starts in the POV of our hero. Well, our hero of the story. He's definitely not a hero. And we spend a lot of time in his POV, which I think was good because it sets you up to appreciate him. But he's approached by his brother-in-law who has fucked up. His brother-in-law has gotten the nanny pregnant. Now, our hero and this brother-in-law, they have 2 kids with his sister, and his sister wants another baby, and he's coming to his brother-in-law because he knows his brother-in-law is a fixer and that he has done that in the past. It's not really shared, like, why he would know that or, like, how, but it apparently is, like, semi-well known within the family that he has fixed things before. It's never really explained why, but Sam Mariano makes it work for me. And while this stupid-ass brother-in-law is explaining to our hero, like, what was so sexy about this nanny that he cheated on his sister for, and I'm just sitting here and I'm like, oh my god, he's gonna fall for this girl. And that's what happens. So this 18-year-old nanny is pregnant, and our hero climbs into her bedroom at night and is going to kill her. And instead of kill her, he's heard all these really sexual things about her, and then he sees her and he's like, I think I want to fuck her first. Sam, what the hell? And she's like, if I let you do that, will you leave my family safe? And he's like, yeah, come with me. So she goes with him back to his house to protect her family and her 2, like, nieces and nephews. And then they have sex that night. And then the next day, he doesn't kill her, and he decides to keep her, and that he can raise the baby she's going to have as his. And he's like, if you decide to be with me, you can't ever leave. And she's like, okay. And I gave this 5 stars because it's Sam Mariano. And I know I'm not explaining this great. I'm going to do a video soon where I do like 5 random reviews again. I haven't done one of those in a while because there's been end of year content and like channel member stuff to handle. But I'm going to do another one where I do 5 random reviews, and I will do a better job for this. But we need to keep moving because we haven't gotten through all the books yet. But I gave it 5 stars. There's a lot more to it than I explained, but it's Sam Mariano. And I was addicted to the book from the first chapter, and I was like, how does she write characters like this? I don't know, but I was into it. Then I read Queen Move by Kennedy Ryan. I'm not going to talk about this too much because I do have a video coming up where I go in depth. I ended up giving this 3.5 stars, which I'm sad about, but after speaking with some of my friends who shall remain nameless, it just wasn't as big of a hit for me as Longshot was, and maybe part of it is that I didn't read the beginning of the Kingmaker series, because this is considered book number 3 in that, like, series. And while I love Kimba, and to me this is completely, like, Kimba is amazing, I appreciate her, I didn't enjoy my time reading this book. And granted, I didn't enjoy reading Longshot either, but I was invested in what was going to happen for these 2. But for this one, I ended up skimming some of it, and I just didn't buy Ezra and Kimba as, like, that they're 20 years apart from each other would mean that they would be so in love. Like, 20 years, I don't know. Sometimes that works for me, and you can sell me on this connection. But with all the life that they lived in between, I just wasn't getting there, and it just wasn't working for me. But I'm not giving up on Kennedy Ryan at all. I love Longshot and Blockshot, or Longshot and Hookshot, and so I definitely will be reading more of her. This one just didn't work, and I'm sad because I know everyone wanted me to love it, but I just wasn't getting to it. Then I read Dead Man Walking by Giana Darling. This is book 6 in the Men of the Fallen series. This is about Priest and Beatrice. Beatrice is, what's her name? the first one, the first sister, what's her name? I totally forgot her name. But Zeus's wife, her younger sister. So B is, you know, one of the mayor's daughters, right? She was raised with her sister, and but she's also been a part of this biker family since her sister married Zeus, you know, and is the biker's old lady. And so she's always been around them, and she has always had a thing for Priest. And so Priest is the torturer and enforcer for the fallen MC. And when she puts herself in a situation which, I mean, it totally isn't her fault because she didn't know who this person was, but she goes on a date with a guy who is in some trouble with the fallen, and Priest has actually planted like a car bomb in the vehicle that she's in. This is the inciting incident of it. And she ends up getting hurt by this because there's being like drug war happening. It's hard to explain a Giana Darling book 6 books in. And I was so excited to read this because my history with the Fallen series is that I loved books 1 and 2. Books 3 and 4 didn't really do it for me. But books 5, I really, really liked it. And then this one, I was really waiting for it to come out. And it just worked for me so well. Anyway, so then after this moment where she's like in danger with him, he kind of becomes the one protecting her. And there also happens to be a like serial killer or serial stalker going around the town and seems to be targeting B. And so she ends up spending a lot of time with Priest for him to protect her. Also, she makes it known that she wants him. And obviously her sister isn't very happy about this. There's also a big age gap with this. She's 20 and he's in his 30s. And he has a lot of damage. He doesn't like being touched very much. He's a very rough sort of guy. I mean, it's called dead man walking because he is dead inside. Like, that's why it's called that. And gosh, it's so hard to break down everything I loved about this book. I mean, it's book number 6. It has a lot of trigger warnings. There is blood play in this book. There is really rough sex scenes. There is torture scenes in here. But there is a hot, hot relationship between these two. And I absolutely love that he only has feelings when it comes to her. And I love a tortured hero that is dead inside, but this heroine just lights him up. And so it happened, guys. This was my first 6-star read of the year. And we're not that far into the year, but I kept like waiting for this to happen. Like, I released the 6 stars as a thing, and I didn't know if I would have any so soon, but this one was a 6th star. And it's hard to explain why more than I already like just did because this is book 6 in a series, but I was addicted to this story, and I didn't think that I could be for a 6th book in a series. But Giana Darling did it, and I loved it. It was dark and twisted, and it was perfection. Then, to change it up, I read The Highlanders Forbidden Bride by Donna Fletcher, and this is book 4 and the final book in the Sinclair Brothers series. Can't say really anything about this one, but as I said, you should kind of read this series in order. This series starts with Return of the Rogue, which I read at the very end of last year, and then I read the other 3 this year. Again, if you watch my Highlander video, you'll see more in depth about this family and why I love them so much. But this is about the brother Ronan, who actually, like, the arcing story that I'm talking about is about him. This is also about Carissa, who is the daughter of a barbarian lord. And she is, a lot of people want to come after her to get revenge against her father. So, but this is a tough woman. She wasn't the daughter of a barbarian warlord for no reason. And she has a pretty tortured past, obviously, because her father wasn't a great guy. And the Sinclair brothers, they all really want revenge against her for what her father has done. And I just really, really loved this one as well. The covers, guys, always so beautiful. This was a 4.5 star for me. it really like dragged in the middle of this one, but I mean, I read this in one day, so it didn't drag that long, but it just drug a little in the middle more than some of the others, but I was so like, also I feel like because this book was built up to so long, I understand why she let it breathe, because if she had rushed through those scenes, it would have been like, dude, we've been waiting 4 books, so, but for me, I just was like, figure out the secrets and move along, you know, but I really, really loved it. I mean, every book in this series was 4 stars or higher, and I loved it. I love the Highlander stuff. Then I read Lesson in Blackmail by K.D. Rabichaux. This was also a book that was on Heather's top list of the year, and I completely understand why. And right on the heels of Dead Man Walking, this was also a 6-star read for me. And it's basically a novella length. Oh my gosh. I mean, Heather, she'll explain this book to you so much better if you watch her Best Books of the Year series. But this book, I never read a book by K.D. Rabichaux, but obviously the premise really got me into it. This is set up as like a bully romance, like student-teacher, but it's not really any of those things, which is why I understand now Heather's trouble explaining what this book is. Because it's just all the things that it's supposed to be categorized as, like it's not completely. In that way of like, we have this dude, he's kind of king of the school. This is a private school that he's a senior at. He's 18 years old. And then there's this librarian who's 22. So only 4-year age gap. And she's very innocent. Well, she's not innocent. That's the thing. She is a shy, submissive woman. Okay. She is a submissive woman. She's had some trauma, not sexual trauma. There's some other things that have happened, and she sees this therapist actually specializes in like helping people cope with their traumas through BDSM. So she is a submissive at a club, and this club is actually like co-owned by her therapist, who he never practices on his own patients. And from what I've learned, this sex club is actually what K.D. Rabichaux has like a whole series devoted to this sex club. Whereas this book about, I think it's called like, is it the Black Mountain Academy? I don't know. Was this series that was like a collaboration series by a bunch of authors. And then this was her entry into it. So K.D. Rabichaux has a whole backlist that is like focuses on this academy. But this is or not the academy, focuses on the sex club. And this is like where the two places meet. So back to the story. This librarian, she has been being teased and kind of like bullied by this student who has all the power because he is a student, or he's a child of like the owners of this school basically, because it's a bunch of parents who like fund it basically. And he just always picks on her. And this is only like 1 chapter long because this is a short, basically novella length. It's barely 200 pages. And so that part of it does not last long at all because he follows her home one night, which very stalkery, and these things all get addressed. That's the thing. Anything that I'm about to say that will seem hanky to you, it gets addressed in the book, which I just love because it feels so good to support a book that I can just be like, just read it, because any question you have, it gets taken care of. I don't mind supporting books that other people see as problematic. Obviously, don't care. Like Dark Romance Queen, don't mind. But it's also nice when I can be like, if you want to try a dark romance and you're not sure, you could try this one because they're going to answer all your questions. But you don't know that in the beginning. So he follows her home and then sees her leaving the house in like a trench coat and high heels. And he's like, what's going on? And so he follows her, and it's early before this BDSM club has opened. And so he's able to sneak in and like sees her take her trench coat off because you're in the BDSM club supposed to wear your gear. And he's like, goo goo eyes, because she's a babe, which he already knew. And then she's like, oh my God, he's going to ruin my life now that he knows that I'm here. But it goes one step further than that, because he says, we need to talk about this. And so she brings him to her home, and she thinks that it's all over, that he is going to blackmail her and force and like do all these things. And he actually says, teach me about this. because I've been missing something, and a lot of the things that you're telling me about this, I think that being a dominant is what I need to channel these things. And so, again, it all starts out really hinky because we practice BDSM outside of the club with someone who doesn't know what they're doing. She's like being a submissive for someone that is like not trained in any of it. There's a lot of things about it that are bad. Again, gets dressed later how bad this is. But in the moment, it's very sexy, and it's like it's all clicking into place for them. And I loved this so much, and I understand why Heather liked it so much. And I gave it 6 stars, and I was like, what am I doing? This is a 5-star, but then it also, I can't find anything wrong with it. It's a 6-star because I just want to talk about it all the time, and it was so good. So that happened. Then I read the first book for book club, Mr. Cavendish, I presume. This was a reread. I've read everything Julia Quinn's written. You should know this by now. I still need to finish The Lost Duke of Windham before book club. Hello, hi, I have a book club with my friend Crystal from Crystal's Bookish Life. It's called the Rake Appreciation Society, and we have book club this Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Mountain Time. Yeah, I think? Yes. And we are reading the Windham duology, which is, ow, my ring, which is Mr. Cavendish, I presume, and The Lost Duke of Windham. Absolutely gorgeous. This book is about Amelia Willoughby, who's always been engaged to the Duke of Windham, and a mere 6 months before they're supposed to sign the contract, she's 6 months old when they sign the contract, so she's been engaged to him her whole life. Sorry, I haven't actually read the back of this book in so long. And she thinks that he's never going to actually want to marry her because he keeps putting it off, and she's just so done with it all. So without, like, spoiling what the overarching plot of these 2 books are, in this book in particularly, we're dealing with a girl who, like, she is in this betrothal, has been since she can remember, and this guy just ignores her. Like, he doesn't pay any attention to her. He doesn't put any effort into wooing her because she's a done deal, and he'll just marry her whenever he wants, and she can just wait her sweet ass time. And she's fed up with it. So the first couple chapters of this book are her just being like, he is kind of ordering her around at a country ball, and then, like, she's like, screw you. And she, like, walks out on him and gives him the cut in front of everybody in town. And so he's just so angry. And so he storms after her, and they kiss. And he's like, why haven't I been kissing this woman I'm engaged to for all this time? So that's just a fun setup of this. There's a lot more going on, but this was great. I actually gave this a 4-star, which the first time I read this was so long ago, and I didn't even know that it was a duet at the time. And now knowing that, like, I still really love it. I'm not going to say any more thoughts about this because there's going to be a whole book club. I really love it. Her writing is so charming. But at the scale that I read now and what I want in historical romance, this doesn't have, like, the steam level that I want, and it doesn't have the, like, certain things that I need in a romance. And, like, I know that about Julia Quinn. That's why I call her a starter for a lot of people. But it still was so pleasant, and even though it didn't have those, like, as much sex as I wanted there to be, it still is such a comforting read for me because I love Julia Quinn, and her banter is so good, and the plot of these 2 books is so, like, fun and unique that it still was such a great time. So if you want to hear more about my thoughts and, like, my process of reading these and my history with Julia Quinn, which I love sharing with people, our live show is on Crystal's channel this week. Then I read Courage to Love by Samantha Kane. Oof, this one was rough. This was a recommendation from some people after my Menage video that I put out, which was really fun to make. I'm really glad that I did that. This is a historical romance, and it's about these 2 soldiers and a war widow who her husband was friends with them, and then he died, and these 2 men together are discovering that they like to share women. So we get to see an experience of that. And then both collectively and at the same time, they decide that they want this widow and they want to take care of her and love her. but she's not ready for that to happen and is like, my husband just died. But through some turn of events and tragedy, 5 years later, she has had to be people's mistresses to survive. And they have been just like waiting around for her to decide that she loves them. And through that time, kind of condemned her to be mistreated. And like, they didn't know that was happening because she turned them down, and they act like they were just waiting for her to realize she loved them. And so, I don't know. This book was just set up so weird. I gave it a 3-star, but honestly, I'd probably give it a 2.5. The reason it got a 3 is that the ending scene, because that's the thing too. This starts as a MFM because these men, they love each other, but they didn't think that they would want to have sex together, but they have sex together with a woman, so they were an MFM. And I was told that this is an MMF series, and it isn't until like, so what was beautiful about this is watching those two men slowly like change the order, if we would. There's also some BDSM elements in here, but they don't know that. There's just like one of the men is really dominant and the other one really enjoys it. So I don't know. It was unique and fun. This is the first in like a 20-book series of like all these men who are like, so I don't know. I probably won't read anymore because you have to buy them. And after reading this one, I understood why it was recommended to me. I like trying historical menage, but I'll tell you, I've read a few historical menages at this point, and none of them have worked because they just can't, I can't suspend my disbelief for it the way that I can in a modern one. So I may still try a couple because I believe that someone can do it right, but I haven't read one yet where I've loved the book because this one was so cheesy and ridiculous that I was going to give it a 2-star, and then the very end of it, it bumped it up because I'm a sucker for when two men realize that they love each other that way. So it bumped it up, but it wasn't great in my opinion. I read Power Exchange by Sadie Haller. I'm going to talk a bit quicker about a couple of these books because I have some good ones to talk about at the end, and this is getting really long. Power Exchange is Sadie Haller's new BDSM series. This was a, like, this is a hard one to explain. Fuck. I gave this book 4 stars. I love Sadie Haller and Ainsley Booth when they write together. Sadie Haller, this is part of a new series called the Fetwork, and so it's basically this new app that gets designed for celebrities who are into BDSM so that they can be discreet. And the first one is kind of like novella length, and it's about how this app gets created because we have a fixer, this woman who's a fixer, and also a active submissive. And then we have a guy who he's a dom, and he has clients that he's trying to protect, or he's an app developer. He's the app developer. And after they have a meeting together, they both need to burn off steam. And so independently from this meeting they had, she's in town and she goes to the best well-known BDSM club in town, and it happens to be one that he frequents. And so they both end up at this club, and they agree that just for that night they will scene together because she's going to be leaving town and they are not going to be working together because their meeting didn't work well. And so they end up having like a casual relationship whenever they're in towns together. It was okay. It needed to be more filled out. It also had a lot of time jumps in it, which I'm not a fan of, but I love, 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 love seeing well put together BDSM. It's based on what my 6-star read for the week, this week was. So it did get a 4-star. I don't know if I'll continue the series because they're all looking to be pretty short. And I just don't like that. I mean, honestly, especially with BDSM, I usually like them to be longer books because there's so much dynamic and power exchange and mind fuckery you have to deal with that I just don't feel like they can be that short. Then I read His Countess by SM LaViolette. This was book 3 in the, I can't remember what the series is called, but this is the pen name for Minerva Spencer. And I read His Harlot and His Valet at the end of last year. These are historical BDSM novels or really dark historicals, and this one had cheating in it, and it had cheating in it in a really shitty way, and so it tanked what was looking to be a really good book for me. Ooh, and it was useless cheating. Like, it was useless cheating. That's what bothered me. And you're supposed to be okay with it because of the kind of guy that this is and the time period, because it's historical. And this is a case of, like, this woman had a really abusive husband. Or he kind of just ignored her. This is one, he just ignored her. And then he died. He actually, I think, had lovers, like male lovers. And so he was never interested in her. And then this guy, Gideon or Gabriel, I can't remember. He's the new heir. And so he comes out and realizes that she's been neglected at this home. They have an instant sexual attraction. He has brought his maids back with him, which are 2 of his mistresses. And there is these, like, rooms with, like, peepholes, and between the Countess's rooms and the Earl's rooms. And so she sneaks and, like, watches him dominating these women, and he finds out she's doing it, and so he keeps performing until she, like, can't I don't know. Anyway, the point being, they end up having an arranged marriage then, because he's like, well, I'll marry you because I need an heir. That's cool. Also, you seem like you really want some of these sexy times. That'll be great. Also, then you still are the Countess of all of this, and you can take care of your people, and it's great. But he's falling in love with her, and he's scared. And so they would have been cool having someone, like, sharing someone together, because these books, yeah, like, there's people who they'll bring people in for scenes and stuff like that, and in BDSM people do that, and it's cool. But he takes it too far and just gives her to someone, and not, like, gives her as in, like, she doesn't have a will. He's like, I want you to be able to go sleep with this person. You have my blessing. And it happens, and then he's jealous about it. And see, she went through with it because she's like, maybe he'll realize he's jealous. But, like, that never worked. Oh, God. And then he's like, well, I actually didn't like that. You can't have any lovers, but I'm going to keep having lovers. And she's like, shit. I wanted him to realize that when he saw me with someone else, that he doesn't want me to be with anyone else if he's not involved in it. And so then he leaves and, like, leaves her locked there. Like, not locked in, but, like, leaves her at the estate like her previous husband did. And goes and just fucks around with whoever he wants. He keeps going to his old BDSM clubs and places and having sex with whoever. And then he's, like, expecting her to suffer without anyone. And he's like, man, I keep sleeping with all these people and it's not doing anything for me. And his friend, it's this friend who he's, like, everybody's friend through the series and, like, helps them solve their marital problems while never being married himself, is like, dude, don't you think she was jealous? And you hear fucking everything that moves without an emotional connection isn't helping. So, I did not mean to go on a rant about that one. I'm going to move along. I gave it 2 stars. It really pissed me off because I loved what SM Violette's been doing in these series, but she's had cheating in all 3. Just in the last 2 books, it worked in a different way because it wasn't someone, I hate cheating to deliberately hurt someone's feelings. But when it's like, you don't know the person loves you yet or whatever, I don't know. I can be okay with it. And when it's in BDSM and people are sharing, like, I don't consider that cheating because it's agreed. It's okay that you're sleeping with someone because it's part of your dynamic that you involve other people. But to do that to a woman who she'd never been loved and she's having feelings for you and then you're scared of the feelings, so you run away and then cheat on her, I was like, no. Then I read A Duchess a Day by Charis Michaels. This is one of the buddy reads for my channel. Doesn't seem like a ton of people were reading it with me. That's okay. I still read them if you ask me to read them. This book was okay. I gave it a 4-star. I had a pleasant time reading it. The audiobook was really good. It was missing something. Like, I already am forgetting things that happened in it. It's not going to be a memorable book for me. We'll see what the next book in the series are about if I want to keep reading it. But it's this girl, Helena, who's engaged to this really boring loser of a duke. But their families want it to happen because there's things to do with property or whatever. And then there's Declan Shaw, who's known as the Huntsman, which is why this is like a Snow White retelling. And he is hired right out of prison because he was in prison for a crime he didn't commit, blah, blah, blah. And he is supposed to guard her, and so he's made to be her, like, groom or something, but actually to keep an eye on her. And pretty quickly, she's, like, tries to get him on her side, and so then it's the both of them trying to figure her way out of this betrothal that she's in. It was cute, it was fun. I'm not going to remember it a month from now, so I would still give it 4 stars because I could see specific situations where I might recommend it. It's fun because they are, like, a team for a lot of the book, but I talked with Crystal about it, and at the end of the day, I was just like, yeah, but I've read things that are more than this. Then I read the next book in the Highland Wedding series. I read Highland Vixen by Mary Wine. This book is definitely, like, I don't know, I really love the first one too. This one, we saw the build up for this series for this book in the first one. This is about Marcus and Helen, who Helen had been staying with the McPhersons as kind of like a captive. This would happen in the Highlands to, like, get other families to obey. You would, like, have someone as a ward or a captive in your stronghold. She escapes at the beginning of this book and goes to court. And that's a really stupid thing because we have the Earl of Morton, who the Earl of Morton is who made, in the last book, he's the one who threatened to kill everyone if that couple didn't get married. And now he's going to use her. Well, no, he wants to use Marcus for the same thing. It's because when Marcus gets summoned to court as well, he's supposed to marry this child who's like 14 years old for a political alliance. And so to save him from having to marry this girl and to rescue this girl, Kathryn, Helen and him get married. They, like, fake a marriage. I mean, they actually get married, but they don't consummate it. And she's planning for them to get an annulment, and he's like, I've been wanting to marry you anyway. And so then they go back to his stronghold, and he's trying to, like, woo her into being his wife for real. There's also a lot of background stuff that goes on in this series because there is some other characters who are going through some crazy stuff. And then, like, I'm pretty sure the next one is about Kathryn because there's kind of, like, a time jump now, and Kathryn will be, like, a grown-up, and it should be really good. But I loved this. I gave this 5 stars. I love this series so much. Again, this one has the same narrator as Donna Fletcher books, and I love him. He's great. Then the last 2 books I will talk about pretty quickly. Watch me try. I'm doing a reread of the Born in Blood series by Cora Reilly with my friend Jessin. Jessin from Jessin Reads Romance has recently, I've tempted her down the Mafia trail and tiptoed down it with me. And so we read the first one together. I finished the second one last night as well. So this first one is about Luca and Aria, and this is about Dante and Valentina, and they both have arranged marriages. One of them is the capo of New York, and one of them is the head of the outfit in Chicago, and they're both arranged marriages. They're fantastic. These were both still 5 stars, and I can't wait to keep reading. I've ordered all the new covers of these, and they're just fucking gorgeous. So, yeah, there we go. All right, there we go. We're wrapping up this always gets carried away. This is why I have to do weekly ones, guys. 18 books I read. I'm so excited to keep going. It was a really shitty week, I think, for the country and for just other stuff happening on BookTube and just drama. And I'll be honest, I just quietly hide away in my corner and read. And this is what happens. I stress read. I read when I'm happy. I read when I'm sad. It's just all the reading, and it comes out as videos for you guys. So there you go. Thank you so much for watching this. I put up new videos all the time. If you'd like to look into channel memberships and hang out with me more, make sure you do that. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.